everyone. My name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. We use our social media platforms as an opportunity to have conversations and to create space for all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan: support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Monday. We actually dropped a thought piece this past Monday, so definitely be sure to meander over to the website and check out our online content. Now, if it is the case that you're looking for a listening alternative, well, we're available wherever podcasts are playing, and we provided you with a few links down below. Now, as is the convention, subscribe. Definitely follow us if you like our content, if you want to have conversations around mental health and education, around impact and change. I am not that great at growth strategy, but I have a lot to say. So if you want to listen, then definitely join our community and be part of the game changers that we're trying to be. Let's get into it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And today's topic of discussion is mental wellness. And the conversation around mental wellness, I'm going to be talking about emotional intelligence. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about how you support yourself in managing your emotions so that you're always representing yourself in the best way possible. And so for those of you who are interested in the topic around emotional intelligence and how to develop it, there are 2 primary levers. So there are 2 levers when it comes to emotional intelligence. The first lever is your ability to monitor your emotions. So that involves also developing an emotional vocabulary. So the best way that you can support yourself in identifying the emotions that you yourself are going through, some of the more complex emotions. So if you ever feel inclined to build your emotional vocabulary, and this is something that I did very intently during my university years, and all you're going to do is you're going to do a Google search, pick a category. You can pick big categories. So there's sad, mad, and happy as your primary large-scale emotions, but those can be piecemealed into very specific, very nuanced, very complex emotions. And the more specific you can get, the more precise you can get, the more capable you are at identifying the right emotion, the emotion that you yourself are feeling. Because a lot of the times our struggle with emotional expression is that we don't have the words available to us. We're experiencing these big, complex emotions, but we haven't given ourselves the language to communicate them. And if you think about toddlers and how they struggle with expression and how it comes out sometimes the wrong ways because they don't have the words to communicate to the people around them how to receive the support that they need. And that happens well into adulthood because we experience big emotions, complex, nuanced emotions, and the less words we have available, the less we feel like we're communicating what our emotions are, and also in relation to that, getting the support that we need. So I suggest doing a Google search, getting yourself an emotional wheel. And these emotional wheels are super great because they give you different words that you can leverage, that you can feel out once you look at the definitions of these words, and it will give you a better sense of the emotions that you yourself are experiencing. Because a lot of us don't delve that deep, but because we're not delving that deep we feel misunderstood a lot of the time, and that's because we ourselves aren't necessarily equipping ourselves with the arsenal of language required to communicate our emotional complexity, and all of us are emotionally complex, wonderful human beings. So that is something that I'm going to ask all of you to do. If you want to build in your emotional quotient, the very first step is definitely building on your emotional vocabulary, getting into very piecemeal, very specific words that describe very specific emotional, mental states. And now the second one, which is really going to be the focus of today's conversation, really on managing your emotions. So the first step is monitoring, so being able to catch your emotions as they come up. And the one thing that you also need to recognize when you're monitoring your emotions, you're monitoring them without judgment and without criticism. We feel what we feel. It is what it is. And I'm not going to criticize myself because my environment is giving me an emotion that might be taboo or might not be an emotion that people generally accept. Like, I love and accept all of my emotions. They all have a purpose. They all serve me. My emotional footprint loves me, serves me, only has the best interest for me. And because I recognize that my emotions are signals, they tell me about who I am, right? Because we don't control our emotional expressions. Our emotional expressions give us a sense of who we are by way of our emotional identity. And so how I react to different things is part of who I am, and that's something that I can learn without shame or blame, or that is something that I can try to suppress. And of course, I'm breaking off pieces of myself in that sense. So when it is the case that I feel scared, that I feel uncomfortable, like those are just things that I feel based on certain stimuli, and I'm not interested in desensitizing myself. I'm interested in following the cue, following the signal, and aligning myself to environments where I feel comfortable and happy. And so that's what it is. And so that's why, like, there are certain things that I don't do because of the intensity of the emotions that I feel when I do them. So I don't watch scary movies because I really don't like feeling scared. It is not a comfortable emotion for me. It is not an emotion that I care to subject myself to unnecessarily. If I have to, I will, but if there's a signal of fear, the signal is for me to do something to quiet the fear, not to augment the fear. Because I recognize that, I align myself accordingly because I want to stay in alignment. I want to respect and honor all aspects of self, and that's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual self. And so the next step is about management. And so managing our emotions, or giving ourselves some guardrails as to how to navigate our emotions in a way that we represent our best selves and are aligned to our highest selves. So the way that you monitor your emotions are, for one, and these are just my tips and tricks. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can manage your emotions, but these work for me. And the first one is time and place. And that is for you to recognize, like, when is the time and place for me to express my emotions in relation to the things that are happening around me. And so for me, I am someone, I need to take a step back and reflect. My emotional and my cerebral need to be attuned, need to be aligned before I move forward. And that's just how I monitor and manage my emotions. I like to do a cerebral check, so I like to make sure that both hemispheres of my brain are aligned before I do the next thing. And so because of that, I'm very big on time and place. It is very rare that you're going to have me have an emotional outburst in the moment, because I need to think about my emotions, I need to process my emotions, and I need to feel aligned cerebrally by way of why I'm reacting that way, what it is that I need, and what should I communicate to make sure that that need takes place. So those things need to happen for me, and because of that, time and place is super easy. For other people, if they live in their emotions, then it's going to be a practice, a muscle that you develop, but it's something worth developing. And time and place involves three basic categories, and I like to call them will, won't, and don't, right? So you want to establish where you will absolutely give yourself permission to express yourself emotionally, however it is the case that you feel inclined to do so. And that involves, like, environments where you feel comfortable expressing yourself. So that can be like in the gym, like letting off steam, or that can be with a select group of friends that you feel really comfortable being your emotional self with. But it's really you taking inventory of the spaces and places where you feel like there is psychological safety and being completely authentic in that emotional expression. Now, the next one is won't. So these are areas where it's a gray area, and because it's a gray area and you want to make sure that you honor your emotions and you recognize that your emotions are privileged access, like my emotional expression is not something that I dole out to everyone and anyone. Not everyone and anyone is going to know how I feel on any given day, and that's my rule of engagement, right? That's not something that I negotiate with. I'm very selective and particular about who I'm emotional with and to what extent am I going to be vulnerable and open about those specific emotions with any given setting. And so that's where the won't comes in. And so really being clear with yourself as to what spaces and places will you not give yourself permission to be fully liberal in the way that you express yourself emotionally, so that you can represent your best self and be aligned to your highest self. And the last one, of course, is don't. So the absolute no-go zones, the areas where you're absolutely not going to give yourself license to be expressive emotionally, because it's only going to hurt you. And so my don'ts are never about external consequence. It's really about like inner locus of control. I want my emotional expressions to always be in alignment with my highest self. So I am not creating my don't category based on what other people would deem as like an inappropriate place to have emotional expression. My don't, my will, and my won't categories are based on where I feel like I'm representing my highest self in the ways that I choose to navigate these specific spaces and places and people and environments in the way that I express myself emotionally. So think about that. So don't let society tell you what your will, won't, and don't areas are. Like, that is something for you to inform, for you to curate on your own, and to do that inner work of monitoring your emotions and recognizing like what environments bring out what emotions. Then maybe telling yourself, well, wait, if these emotions don't feel good, if they're not emotions that I like, then how can I better align myself to environments that bring about the emotions that I really would like to experience more frequently on a day-to-day basis, and kind of playing with your emotional footprint. And I did a video on emotional footprints and emotional footprinting, and I'm going to link that video here, but it's just really important work for you to do to support yourself in the long run. So in any case, that was the topic for today, some food for thought for you, some guardrails, a little bit of foundation if you want to build in your emotional intelligence. So hopefully that is helpful to you as it relates to my stalking situation. No information for you as yet, but you will be the first to know when I do. So thank you so much again, and we'll talk to you all very soon.